Just in the morning.
I don't see it on.
Just in the morning.
I just shared it.
Just in the morning.
Welcome to week number 3, fantasy football fans. This is Juice in the Morning and Paulies Sleepers coming to you from the East Central Indiana. We are the number one fantasy football podcast in East Central Indiana. We have a lot of people playing music over their phones. It's all right.
Mr.
No worries.
Technology.
No worries. We're working on our tech skills. We need to get somebody in here. We need to get an intern.
Theme. That's your Juice theme playing over.
Yeah, we definitely need to get an intern in here. So if you guys know anybody, let us know. But once again, welcome back to Juice in the Morning, Paulie Sleepers Fantasy Football. How are you doing today, Paul?
Good morning, Paulie Sleepers fans. We are all here. We got
There's so
John.
much to talk about this week.
There's a lot to talk about, and we're ready, man. We're all fired up.
So how you doing today, John?
I'm doing good.
You bringing the energy this week?
I'm always bringing the energy. I don't know if you can tell by my monotone voice, but I'm always trying.
No, it's one of the funniest things about John is that I feel like even when he's super excited, he doesn't sound that excited.
You just can't tell.
But you just got to take his fantasy football knowledge for what it is, and then
the knowledge is key. That's why he's here.
You don't got to worry about the tone of the voice.
Yeah.
And then we also have Jackson back in the studio. How are you doing today, man?
Well, my shoulder's good.
Yeah. Besides that,
I ran out of talent going to first, and then like the dude's a statue who was standing on the base. Ran into him, got knocked down, dislocated. It felt like, but
this is softball, by the way.
Yeah, this is rec
starts
league.
telling a story that no one knows about.
Softball. But other than that, I'm ready to go make some money this week.
Well, this week we have a very big guest for the podcast. We're going to be calling him later, and he's going to give us some of his favorite players for the year. But I want you to tell us a little bit about that, Paul. Who is this guest that we've got? I teased it as a surprise guest. I didn't put anybody's name on it for the Facebook post and the Twitter post.
I tagged him on my stuff.
Yeah.
It's Jim Jacks from Jim Jacks Sports News. He's huge on Twitter. He's got 47,000 followers. He's wrote for ESPN affiliates. He's been on ESPN affiliate podcasts. He has his own podcast. He does a lot of stuff. And I'll go into more of his bio later, but I wanted to tell the story real quick of how I landed this
absolutely
kind of high profile guy, because he was talking about doing podcasts, and I just commented in there, and this is back when we had like 200 followers on Twitter, and we've got like 850 now. But
yeah, you're growing quickly.
So
we're changing the world.
I love it. I love
changing the
seeing
game.
it.
But back then, I was like, "Hey, man, I know we're really small fish, but I'd love for you to do my podcast." And he reached out and he was like, "Yeah, sure." So I tried to book him like 9 weeks ago, and he was like, "Hey, man, you guys book your guests out 9 weeks in advance. Just like, I don't know, like hit me up later, like the week before." And I was like, "Oh shit, I scared him off." But last week we talked, and he was like, "Yeah, I'll do it next week." And then I didn't hear from him for a while. Well, he's been in the hospital. He had a respiratory issue, so he reached out to me. I left the spot open, just hoping he would hit me up. And on Monday, he was like, "Hey, man, I'll if we want to do some other time, that's fine. But I'd love to do your podcast this week. I'm working from home this week." And I was like, "Yeah, great." So he's a Raiders fan, so John should like that. And he plays fantasy football. He doesn't do daily fantasy football like we do, but
he's a purist.
Yeah, he's in a lot of leagues, and he also has a WordPress. If you go to WordPress, Jim Jacks is on there, but we'll have him on later, and it's going to be great. He's going to really elevate our exposure a lot.
Awesome. Well, some of the biggest news and note that I would like to bring is I would say this is a Josh Gordon love story that I have going on with myself, because Josh Gordon, I own him in multiple leagues. He's a guy that I've always rooted for. I've always been somebody that I always root for the underdog. I'm probably pretty basic in that aspect. And he just got traded to the Patriots, which in my opinion, this is going to turn into one of those things that's going to potentially be a Hollywood movie at some point, because I have a feeling that he's going to get in there and he's just going to take over, and he's going to make the Patriots are already always a contender to be a champion, but having him there, I think it just completely changes their entire offense. And I'm just excited for it. I want to see it. It's something I am going to be probably the happiest and most entertained if it goes the way I want it to go.
Because you have a lot of share of him and you're a fan. I mean, are you expecting Randy Moss 2.0?
That's what I'm hoping.
In your head?
That's what I'm hoping for. I actually made a bold move in one of my fantasy leagues, and I traded Gronkowski for a top tier running back because I have Josh Gordon on that team, and my team's pretty stacked, and I feel like I can lose that tight end to add the running back help. So with Josh Gordon being on the team and having a chance to score.
Well, that field stretcher only helps Gronk. I can understand not wanting both those players.
Well, it's not wanting to. It was the fact that I could get value from Gronk. And also continue to have, I have Eric Ebron for the Colts as well. So like, I feel like I think he's going to continue to just rise and keep doing well.
I think so too. I posted a Twitter poll. It just came back a minute ago. It received like 135 votes. And the poll was, does he finish this year as a top 5, a number 1, a number 2 wide receiver, or a number 3 wide receiver? And again, when we say number 1, number 2, they usually base that off of a 12-team league. So if you say somebody's a number 2, you say they're going to finish in the top 24. The results were interesting. 20% of those polled said he would finish as the top 5.
Yeah.
Another 20% said he would be a wide receiver 1. 30% said wide receiver 2, and 30% said wide receiver.
So pretty evenly spread.
3 or worse. So 60% of the people out there think he's a 2 or worse, but there's almost half the people say he's a 1 or maybe even a top 5. So I mean, those are all the ranges of outcomes.
I just think it's the perfect environment for him to be in.
He needs to play. He's played in 16.66% of his games the last 66 games.
Yeah.
So he needs to play, but he's definitely a field stretcher, and the Patriots, here's what I don't understand. I want to ask you, Juice. How did they get him if there were 10 teams inquiring about him? How'd they get him for a 5, and then there's another 7 added if he doesn't play 10 games?
Because the Browns are fucking morons. That's the only thing I can think of. That's literally the only thing I can think of.
But no one else offered more than a 5.
That's what I was thinking.
The Raiders gave a 3 for Martavius Bryant. John knows that. So how did the Patriots get Josh Gordon?
Like I said, I'm perplexed by that. That's one of the strangest moves. I think they also weren't the Browns coming out and saying specifically they weren't going to trade him to an AFC team.
Yeah, and
then they completely flip-flopped on that. They're like, the Browns are going to do Brown things. That's just what it is. Like it's been that way the entire season.
But if you think about it, they gave up a 5th-round pick to go get Gordon. In a technicality, that's almost a 6th round with how where it's going to be ranged at and stuff. It's like, you're telling me there isn't 31 other teams out in the league that could have offered, hey, I'll give a 4th. Hey, I'll give a 5th.
Exactly.
I
The other 9 teams did the other 9 teams that expressed interest, none of them gave more than a 5th. I mean, that's my dilemma.
When we sit here in February and they win the Super Bowl again because he blows up, it's like, damn, you guys missed your shot.
Right. And at the very least, they could have gotten something better for it. But I just want to say that I'm looking for this Cinderella story. That's what I'm going to be like. I'm going to keep my eye on it all year. And you guys will hear me talk about it on the podcast week after week, because I'm going to be like, I guarantee you, even if it doesn't go well for a couple of weeks, I'm still going to be like, oh man, he's still there. It's still a chance.
Oh, because the Josh Gordon truthers will always hold on. Well, he showed up today to practice. Hamstring is fine. So that's the other screwed up thing about the Browns thing. But showed up today, number 10, because Brady wears number 12, so he's going to be number 10. So we hope that happens for you, Juice.
Real quick, my favorite meme was the Elon Musk smoking weed on Joe Rogan's podcast, and it says Josh Gordon shows up, and they say, what number you want? And he says number 12, and he's like blowing the smoke out, and he's like, well, that's Tom Brady's number, and that just made me laugh my ass off.
I saw that one too. That was funny.
But what else do we got going on around the league?
More drama. Antonio Brown broke Twitter for 48 hours because someone who used to work for the team, trainer, something like that, said something about Ben, his value is tied to Ben Roethlisberger, and he commented back and said, trade me and find out. So everyone freaked out. Now in the midst of this, he left early for a meeting. He left the meeting early. He didn't show up for a meeting, and he didn't show up for practice Monday. So
he is back at practice though,
he is back at practice now, and the agent had to explain to everybody. I was on Twitter saying, hey guys, he was commenting on a troll, right? He's not going to be traded. But when he didn't show up to practice, that created a firestorm, and there's already a lot going on there with Bell not showing up. But Tomlin said that he disciplined Brown and wouldn't go further into it. So what usually happens in this situation is they don't start the game, but still play a bunch of snaps. So I don't know if he's going to be like technically not a starter, which means he's out there on the second play, or what has been the discipline. They don't make them run laps like they're in high school. I don't know what the discipline is, but it was pretty big, and a lot of people very much overreacted, like it happens on Twitter all the time, like he's going to get traded, and he's not going to be traded. But
a lot of times those punishments just turn into fines.
Could be a fine.
Are the Steelers imploding?
Yes.
I mean,
you know what? It kind of started out like this last year and started out 0-3 and came back and, and made noise in the playoffs and everything. And they've got a good guy, Connor, to replace Bell. They've got, Juju is doing better than AB right now, and
got him on my team too.
They are the AFC offensive version of what the Seattle defense was 2, 3, 4 years ago. Like the implosion will be the exact same thing.
It's kind of sounding that way. I mean, pretty soon the Patriots and the Steelers will fall and not be those dominant teams. But I don't see I don't see either one of them. I mean, especially with the move the Patriots just made. I think they're both going to be fine for a while.
The last Steelers thing that I wanted to get to was, did you guys see the picture of Le'Veon and how fat he looks
yes,
right now?
And
he does not look like he's in game shape.
There's a lot of memes on that too. Like it's
riding a jet ski.
My brother said that Jerome Bettis said, "Man, he looks a little big." This is the bus
coming from the bus.
That was his problem coming out of college, is he was too big, and then he lost weight, and that's how he
kind of looks like he's not planning on playing till week 10. Really,
that's what I'm saying.
Or maybe it was a bad angle.
Right.
Camera adds 100 pounds.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
Moving on, the big pickup for us week 1. I told everybody to go pick up Connor, who's doing great. He didn't rush that much last week, but he got his touchdown and he got 5 catches for.
He's the one I traded Gronk for.
Oh, okay, yeah, that very, very good. So I mean, he got 5 catches for 56 yards. He got his touchdown. He got you 19 fantasy points. So that's going to continue to be a good play. The pickup last week was Philip Lindsay. I told everybody, I'm watching the tape. He's got talent. He was an undrafted free agent. They're not worried about giving him more opportunities than Royce, even with the draft capital. People that drafted Devontae Booker have dropped him by now. The two-headed monster is Lindsay and Royce. And Lindsay just broke an NFL record. No undrafted free agent has ever rushed for 100 yards their first 2 weeks. And I don't know if it's going to take off, but I know I bring up Twitter a lot because I'm on there all day long. But I want to do the hashtag Diet Kamara. And so that's what I'm calling Lindsay is Diet Kamara.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that.
So that was a good pickup for us last week. We'll see if this week's big pickup is the same. I was talking to John about it. I think he might has some pretty good stats to say why it might not happen. So we'll talk about that in a minute. Aaron Rodgers' bone bruise is worse than it sounds. Stephania Bell, who I know you know because people
fantasy focus.
People dog Matthew Berry, but they all watch him.
And it's a fun podcast.
And it's a fun podcast. She's really good about injury. She was talking about this injury, and it sounds worse than it is worse than it sounds.
Yeah.
People say, "Oh, it sounds like worse than it is." This is worse than it sounds.
So
it's bleeding, it's swelling, and he came out about 45 minutes ago and said that he is worried that the injury is going to get worse if he keeps playing.
So do you think? Are we worried about him starting?
No, he's going to start, but
do we start him?
He might, start him this week unless you get information that he's not playing. But I mean, he might miss some time and he might do some pretty serious damage. I mean, it's a bone bruise on the knee, but there's some displacement there, and like I said, swelling and bleeding. The big ramification I think for this is the people that drafted Aaron Jones that are waiting for him to come back this week from suspension are
I've got him as well.
They're going to be disappointed. Don't start him. You got to wait. Coach came out today and said he's behind Jamal Williams and Ty Montgomery. And like I've been telling everybody for weeks, ever since the injury, so I guess not for weeks, but for like a week and a half, Jamal Williams is a better pass protector. Mm-hmm. And the reason why I told people not to draft Rashad Penny and not to draft Ronald Jones, guys that are getting dropped right now, is because they can't protect. And Aaron Jones got 2 more yards per carry last year, but a lot less carries, and it's because of his pass protection. So as long as Rodgers is hobbled, Aaron Jones is not going to see that much time.
So I know we have a pretty tight schedule and rundown. Did we put in here for listener questions? And if we did, okay, so we're going to get to that later.
Yeah,
okay.
I've got the questions.
Just making
and everything.
Sure. Because I've got a couple too that got sent to me as well.
More injuries. Melvin Gordon left the game with an upper body injury. I mean, Austin Eckler is viable. He's a pass catching running back that's not game script dependent, which is unusual because if they're ahead, they're going to put him in the game and let Gordon, take the rest of the day off. If they're behind, they're going to throw it to him, and his stats are amazing. And he's done very, very well. So Eckler needs to be rostered. I mean, the last time he checked, he was on 42% of ESPN leagues. I mean, that's ridiculous. I mean, that means over half the people, he's just sitting on waivers right now. If he's on your waiver wire, pick up Eckler. McCoy's got broken ribs or bruised ribs or no ribs, or I don't know what's going on there. There's been so many different reports. I mean, it's a bad matchup this week versus the Vikings, but he's got an injury that needs to be monitored. Devontae Freeman's injury needs to be monitored. He has a knee. There's a lot of different reports on that too. Initial reports that he would be out 2 to 4 weeks. His OC said that he's not going to, unlikely to play this week. Coach said he's day to day. Okay. So we played Tevin Coleman in DraftKings last week, and it was a smash play. We did it last year too when Devontae Freeman sits. Tevin Coleman's a huge play. IU boy. He had 139 yards rushing last week and 3 catches for 40 yards.
Can Tevin Coleman be the guy somewhere else? I mean, are they going to? Yeah, is he going to go somewhere else?
Yeah, he will be. He's on a contract year, and
there's that contract year that I like.
Yep, very unlikely to pay him and keep him unless Freeman suffers a career-ending injury or something.
Absolutely,
he is very likely to go to a team. Dynasty leagues are going to want to trade for him or have them on their roster because depending on his landing spot, yes, he will go someplace and be the man, in my opinion. So Wentz returns and is going to play against the Colts. So we have Carson Wentz this week. Could be interesting. You've got
what a good spot for him to come back.
You've got Reich versus his former team. They know our stuff. We know their stuff. It's going to be a chess match. He's likely to maybe do a little bit more dump down passes. I think
Colts didn't look too bad last week, though.
No, they look great. They had a great game plan. Just a perfect game plan. It was well executed too, and their defense is better than advertised. And Darius Leonard was defensive player of the week, right? 18 tackles, 15 solo tackles.
It's crazy. And then we got a defensive lineman that's getting back there a lot too. He was getting some sacks. I'm trying to remember what his name is. He's a white boy.
Was it Marcus Hunt?
Marcus Hunt. Yeah. He was a draft name. He was
an awesome name.
He was a training camp standout. There's a lot of injuries, guys. Ajayi was limited the first game with a lower body injury. He left this last game with an upper body injury. As you know, if you follow me and are a fan, he has no cartilage in one of his knees, so his lower and middle and upper is all messed up. So there's some ambiguity there too.
Because he came back.
He came back to score a touchdown, but they're saying that he's unlikely to play. But coach again says he's day to day. It's kind of like the Devontae Freeman. But if he sits, my play of the week is Corey Clement.
Yeah.
Chris Thompson had 14 catches last week, and I think that Corey Clement is a smash play, especially on DraftKings. We played him on DraftKings last week, and this was knowing that Ajayi was going to play. We just liked his opportunity, and I think John might disagree a little bit because of a guy named Wendell Smallwood. You were looking at catches. Is he not going to catch the balls? Am I totally off the base on this? I'm 2 for 2 on the pickup of the week here. Is this not the one?
Well, in 2017, it was Corey Clement who had 20 receptions over the entire season, and Wendell Smallwood had 't. So there's not
kind of
a
even
big difference there. But Wendell Smallwood had a much smaller sample size of playing time. So
Sproles is out too, so it's going to be those two guys. Is it going to be Clement, carrying the load and Smallwood getting the passes? If that's correct, then for PPR, Clement's not the play. Yeah. And no one's going to play Wendell Smallwood, but I might on DraftKings. I don't know.
Right.
Fitzgerald has a hamstring, but he's going to play. Hamstrings are bad for old people.
I think hamstrings are bad for anybody.
That's what I was going to say. That people say, that's bad for Will Fuller because he's a speedster. The hamstring's bad for Larry Fitzgerald. Can we just stop saying that? Can we just start saying that hamstrings are bad for everybody, especially in football? So
my hamstrings are bad right now.
I know my hamstrings are always tight. They're always on the verge of snapping. Leonard Fournette has a hamstring. So Yeldon might be a play again this week, but he is going to return to practice. He returned to practice today, limited. So Fournette owners are going to want to pay attention to that. Blake Bortles is a stream right now. He had probably the best game of his life last week, throwing it into tight windows, hitting up Keelan Cole and D.D. Westbrook, just making things happen. Really, that team is better without Fournette. Their stats are better. Jackson's over there nodding his head, man. Do you totally agree?
Dude, sorry. I was eating some combo.
No, go ahead.
100% agree. So
I love Bortles.
Yeah, I mean, he's all right. Dude, his ex-girlfriend was like a dime piece. Like, if you just look up Blake Bortles' ex-girlfriend and just Yeah, tuck it away.
On a side note,
Yeah, side note. But when Fournette's out, we have a good sample size, 5 games. In those 5 games with Fournette out, Bortles averages 23.0 DK points. Like,
Jesus.
so I mean, you honestly hope that Fournette's out and you play Bortles at 5,500.
and I think we played him last year a couple times when Fournette sat and smashed it. And I love a DraftKings play of him and Cole and Dede and building around there because they'll both get work, and it just allows you to spend so much money at other places.
Right.
The other injury is Joe Mixon, torn meniscus. He's going to miss a few weeks. So Gio was a big pickup this week, but he's limited in practice right now. So they drafted Mark Walton from University of Miami. I'm not saying go out and pick him up, but if you're in a deeper league or dynasty league, like if you have a larger bench or it's a 14-team league or something like that, Mark Walton might be somebody to look at. He's kind of a Gio prototype. 5'10", 202 pounds. I'm just saying because Joe Mixon is not going to play, and if Gio doesn't play either, the bad news is they have the Ravens. So
It's a tough matchup. Although the Ravens didn't look too strong this week either, right?
No, not as good as the first week.
Right.
And
they showed a little bit of it was the Bills they were playing the first week.
No, the Bengals play the Panthers this week.
Oh, the Bengals play the Panthers this week.
They played the Ravens.
Oh, that's right. They already played the Ravens that game.
I mean, I think Southport High School could probably beat the Bills right now. And I mean, that's not saying they're good, but I mean, the Bills suck that bad.
That's why it was so forgettable. That's why I forgot. Dalvin Cook returned to practice. You're good there. Jarvis Landry is the last injury we have to talk about because this is a Thursday game. He has a knee injury, and sometimes these Thursday games make it hard for these guys to come back. They have a shorter week. So, Jarvis Landry owners, just pay attention. Don't be that guy that plays the guy that's out and gets the zero.
Yeah, not paying attention.
No one else likes that, especially if you're playing a guy that somebody really wants to see lose, and then you post up that zero because you're not paying attention. So pay attention to Jarvis Landry.
All right. So, John, I think you prepared for us a little bit of waiver ads for this week. And I think anybody listening, pay attention to these because I got a couple of questions on, picking up this guy or this guy based on how waivers went through. So, John, give us a little bit of rundown on this.
Okay, so I got 2 wide receivers, 2 running backs, 2 tight ends, and a quarterback for you guys. The quarterback is going to be Ryan Fitzpatrick. If people
It's magic. I love it.
Fear the beard.
Dude, the picture with him and like McGregor, like,
Dude,
who the
awesome.
fuck is that guy? Like, it's the greatest thing ever on social media.
That picture was awesome.
The picture of him in the tracksuit
in the shades
is the best ever, and I think I posted that he got 3 women pregnant while he was standing there at the podium.
And I immediately texted everybody and said that's the Halloween costume of this year.
Yes, just dripping with swag. Anyway, go ahead, John.
It's hard to believe in Fitzpatrick because he's been so up and down for his entire career, but he's going up against the Steelers this week, and they've obviously not been able to stop anybody, including the Browns. So that's a good pickup there. First running back, I was going to go with Giovanni Bernard. I wasn't aware that he was hobbled.
He missed practice, but who knows?
Maybe he looked good in that game.
They might just be holding him out because they need him really bad. Yeah. So that could be a very good pickup.
So going with him against Carolina gave up 107 yards and 6.7 yards per carry for Tevin Coleman, and then 4 receptions for 18 yards, I think. And then the week before, they gave up 15 runs for 16 yards to Ezekiel Elliott and 3 receptions for 17 yards. So he should be able to put up points for you. Especially with Joe Mixon being out, there should be no issue there. Another good pickup is going to be Chris Godwin. He's actually second in targets on that team. I know Deshaun Jackson, Tampa Bay.
Okay.
So you like Godwin over Jackson?
Man, Jackson had some big catches.
That's his thing. He's always dependent on those 75 touchdowns. Yep. So if he doesn't get it, then he's putting up like 3 or 4 points.
I like it.
Chris Godwin is actually the second on the team in targets behind Mike Evans.
Nice.
Jackson's third. So keep Chris Godwin in your sights. Austin Eckler, we kind of talked about him already. But against the LA Rams, I think this is a matchup where Austin Eckler could be the guy that they try to use to, break the LA Rams defense because, they got those strong cornerbacks, they got the strong safeties, their D-line's strong, so they're going to attack the middle of the field. The Raiders 2 weeks ago had Jalen Richard with 9 receptions for 55 yards.
Yeah.
Austin Eckler's the same kind of running back and do the same kind of thing. So
I agree. Eckler is a smash play this week, in my opinion.
For sure. I mean, you think about it too with like Gordon, like, yeah, he's bigger than Eckler. And I mean, yeah, he can catch the ball, but it's like that shiftier, smaller guy, almost like how Kamara and Ingram are. Like that style just, I mean, people can't tackle Kamara because he's so damn loose. That's the same thing with Eckler. So I think he's a great play.
Yeah, and I think, they might give Melvin Gordon a little bit of a lighter load because he did come out early last week. I haven't heard that his injury is significant in any way, but I still think Austin Eckler is that matchup guy this week. So the second wide receiver I have on here is Keelan Cole. Jaguars are playing against the Titans. They gave up 2 receivers, 100-yard and touchdowns.
The Titans look really bad.
Yeah.
Really bad at football.
Yeah. Yeah.
They had
like really bad. Yeah. Like let's keep an emphasis on the bad.
Gave up 100 yards and a touchdown to Hopkins last week, and 100 yards and a touchdown to Fuller last week. So Keelan Cole is a good play there.
And that can't cover anybody. Did you guys see that catch?
One-handed.
Yep.
It was, to me, better than OBJ's catch.
It was.
Just because he like
palmed it.
Like 10 feet, like it was 10 feet in the air too. I mean, that was literally like
but
one
the
of
corner
the top
is
5
right
catches
there
ever.
on him while he catches it. With the Odell, like the corner's already out of bounds. Like,
the corner had fallen down with a
right, tighter coverage. I mean, that was an amazing catch. Who else do you like, John?
So I got 2 tight ends coming up here. Eric Ebron, I think, is a good play this week against Philly's defense. They gave up 3 receptions for 96 yards to O.J. Howard last week.
And I think he's just heating up, man. I was watching. I've been a big fan of, like, obviously the Colts. I'm always a big fan, but this year I feel like I have a lot more. They have a lot more momentum, and I'm more interested in watching them. And I've been watching Ebron, and he just gets all the looks compared to Doyle. Doyle doesn't really get anything.
He doesn't get the snaps yet. He's like 38%.
He only played 15%. He only played 15 snaps last week.
15 snaps, yeah. So, but I think as trust is gained, that'll go up, and he has huge touchdown equity. I think they practice those little fade drop plays a lot in camp, and teams aren't ready to guard him yet because everybody thinks he still can't catch the ball.
Exactly.
But I mean, they're running Doyle off the line, and then you put Ebron on the slot or out wide. Like, he provides a mismatch against anybody. Doesn't matter if it's a safety or a bigger cornerback. Like,
tight end
is going to throw to him.
Tight end is tough, just like it's been the last few years, and there's not much out there, and I think Ebron is a huge pickup.
Yep. He scored 12 points in the first week, 15 points in the second week, and that's with limited snap action. So, I mean, I think he's a good pickup for those people who are short on tight end points. And then I got Will Dissly, tight end for the Seattle Seahawks. He did score a touchdown for them last week. There's just not a lot of talent there in Seattle.
That's definitely a deep pull right there because I've never heard that name before in my life.
The Big Montana is who they call him on the fantasy footballers. People are worried about Dixon coming back, but Dissly also has a very good matchup this week against Dallas. They give up a lot of points to that position. I think that's a great pickup too.
Yep.
And those guys are probably on the waiver wire. I don't know about Ebron though, because I mean, I guess it just depends on the leagues you're in, because
he was only rostered on like 42% of teams.
Because I'm in a bunch of like Colts fan leagues, so he's like already picked up in almost every league.
In most of our leagues, yes, but around the nation, he's
people listening to this don't have a bunch of Colts homers on their in their fantasy football leagues.
Yep.
Was that it for your pickups?
Those are all of my waiver wire pickups.
There's a few other guys that I would like to add. John Brown is available on a lot of waiver wires, and he has a touchdown in both weeks. John Brown is amazing. I've always wanted to really I've wanted to root on this player, but he has the sickle cell trait, and if he gets hurt, it's usually like missing double time than normal. But he's been targeted a lot, getting leading the team in red zone targets as well. I think he's going to be a go-to guy, and Crabtree doesn't look to be the number one there. It looks to be John Brown, and he's out there, so I think you could pick him up. Geronimo Allison is getting like 88% of snaps, and he had a decent week last week. I think 7 catches for 63. He scored the first week. Quincy Enunwa is still out there in leagues, so if Quincy Enunwa is on the waiver wire, pick him up. He's going to be a target monster. The rookie that's kind of his binky, his go-to guy.
Who's the quarterback there?
Josh.
Sam Darnold.
Yeah, Sam. And where did
Sam
he go to
Darnold.
school at?
Oh, you like the USC guy.
Yeah, but they got their ass kicked on Saturday night. We'll drop it from
Jackson's
there.
a USC guy, but I definitely agree with Godwin. But I say Deshaun Jackson, is different right now because he's playing out of the slot, which he used to like 20 years ago when he played, and he hasn't lost a step. Like he ran a 4.42 in the combine, and I think I swear he still runs a 4.48. I mean, the dude's
But like his step is like his slow step is still faster than so many other people's good step.
Right.
Like,
and we talk about the slot players. Juju is feasting right now. Michael Thomas is feasting right now. Deshaun Jackson is out of the slot in that offense, and that offense looks potent. I'm not disagreeing with the Godwin play. I think all those guys are plays.
Yeah.
So I would also say, because of that, pick up O.J. Howard too. Mm-hmm. And if Jameis sees more playing time, he targets the tight end more. So O.J. Howard will be a good play, and he had a 75-yard touchdown
and they've
catch
completely
last week
phased
too.
out Cameron Braid out of the offense. Completely phased him out.
All right, so we got also coming up Jim Jacks. All right, Jim Jacks is not available at this moment, but we have Jackson Mears with us, and he's ready to dive deep into DraftKings. So what do we got going on this week? We haven't won the big money yet that I've been expecting, so I'm trying to figure out what's going on here, guys.
Man, we were close last week, and honestly, I mean, we were good week 1, good week 2, but I mean, like I was telling you guys earlier, I mean, if you can hone in like on our lineup and possibly do a little differentiation to it, I mean, you're looking at 50, 60, 70-point swings. So, I mean, just go for it.
There it is. Hold
Jim's
on.
calling us.
Well, hey.
Hey, how's it going, Jim?
Hey, how you doing? Sorry I missed your call. I picked up and it hung up. That was my fault.
No worries at all. This is Justin Juice Kelly. This is the Juice in the Morning podcast, but we're doing basically an NFL season-long thing with Paulie from Paulie's Sleepers. So I'm going to let him just kind of talk to you and introduce himself as well.
Hey, Jim, it's Paulie. Thanks for
Sounds
calling
good.
back. How are you?
How you doing, Paulie?
I'm doing great. It's so glad to have you on the show.
Oh, sure.
Really happy to talk fantasy football with you. How many leagues are you in?
I'm in 4. I usually am in a lot more, like 7 or 8 of them. But this year I got a little bit ill and I didn't get a chance to really study and get into it. But we've been doing one league we're going on our 20th year. So I started in 98. So when it first kind of started being a thing.
Those are fun. My St. Elmo boys, shout out to my St. Elmo Steakhouse boys. We've been in the league for 18 years. I was going to ask you, like, what's the right amount? I hear this a lot. Like, how many is too many? I'm in 6 this year, which is twice as many as I ever have been. And I always said that 2 is kind of a good number. Like, what's the right amount? I mean, does it just depend on how much free time you have?
I'm with you. I do 2 or 3. The problem is you'll have family members or friends and they'll ask you to be in one or they'll have problems filling it. A league. I had one league this year with friends that were writers, new friends that I had made, and they asked me to be in the league. So I didn't really study at all. That was my first draft. I really barely studied, and but I did it just to kind of be friends. And of course, it was a 14-team league, and I got the last pick. So
oh, jeez.
It was bad karma.
That is brutal. I mean, I'm in 2 12-team leagues, and those are a lot harder, and I can't imagine doing more than that. And I picked in the 12th spot in one of them, and that is pretty brutal. So 14 has got to be a tough pick. So who were your first 2 picks in your 14th-team league? Do you remember?
I think I picked that I'm thinking about it. In that league, they're really heavy with wide receiver, so they give a lot of points to the wide receiver. So I think my first pick was a wide receiver. I think it was Hopkins or someone. There really wasn't that many available. And I think my second pick was McCaffrey out of that was the best running back that was available, and
he's pretty much a wide receiver anyway.
Yeah, so I got him, and then after that I just kind of winged it, and I mean it took, I forget, 30, 28, 29 slots before you pick again, and you're looking and all the good players are gone. So
that's the worst place to be.
Oh, it's awful. That's why I thought it was a joke. I thought they had done it to me on purpose, but no, it was a random. So I just kind of got unlucky. So I picked guys at the end. There was a lot of bench players, so I picked Edelman. I picked even Des Bryant, just to kind of maybe.
That's a flyer.
He signs, I get lucky. Yeah, I get lucky. So when you're drafting that late and you're kind of screwed, you just kind of go for hopes and things like that. My friend was in a league like that, and he had a 16-person league, and I have no idea how you win in that, but he got Mahomes. So
that's how you win.
Getting Patrick Mahomes. So everything looks okay for him right now.
Right.
I was reading your WordPress, and I did some little research on you, and I just wanted to bring up some stuff, just non-football related, for a second, just because a lot of this really it fascinated me. I mean, you have done stuff for ESPN affiliates. You have culinary background. You do a lot of podcasts. You have your own podcast. You were the director of respiratory care at a hospital.
Yeah. I started when I was really young. I was a party animal, and my friends and I really weren't going anywhere. And I did a lot of bad things. I didn't get arrested or anything, but we were real mischiefy. And I started dating the valedictorian of our high school, and she was number 3 in grade point average. I think I was number 180th. So I wasn't really hitting the books too much.
Hey, I think we're on the same side of things here.
Yeah, you guys outkicked your coverage, right?
The important things in life. But she got me into respiratory care, and I really like the excitement of it. You're dealing with life support systems, ICU, CCU. You're on the code team, so the worst of the worst patients you see. And it was exciting and fun. So I was in the East Bay at a hospital here, and at that time there was a lot of gang violence. So it would be a night, 4, 5, 6 shootings, and they just roll in, and you see some of the craziest things too because I started out at nights, and then I moved up the ladder. I worked on my days off. I moved up the ladder really quick and became the director within like 3 years,
nice.
Which was kind of unheard of. And I just got really lucky. They liked me, and everything went as planned. I have a lot of stories that you'd have to get a couple drinks in me before I tell you about some of the scandals. But the company I worked for was the largest healthcare organization in the United States.
Oh, wow.
And we were in the biggest scandal in history at that time. And I wasn't involved, but our CEO was, and some of the things that they had done were just horrific. So I had signed a 3-year contract. I said, I'm getting out of here. I started a sleep lab, went on, had my own sleep lab. We did our own respiratory care. And then a friend of mine from church that I went to said, well, do you want to coach basketball? And that's when kind of my sports career started taking off. It was I started writing for different sites, and I ended up being the athletic director there. I coached varsity sports there, created a sports program. I'm kind of one of those guys that I'm there for about 5-10 years, and then I kind of move on. I set it up, I get everything going, and then I get bored, and then I just kind of moved on. So what kind of a long-winded way, but what started I really wasn't into the writing. I worked at that time in the early 2000s for a company that is now probably one of the biggest sports companies online that is going. But at that time, no one took it seriously. I wrote for ehow.com and about.com for medical things. But I started doing it, and then all of a sudden, I stopped because it was just I was mostly doing the Raiders, and the Raiders sucked for so long. It was just a negative experience. Then I came back and I wrote an article. The night that Ken Stabler died, and I wrote and it went viral. I mean, I couldn't believe it. University of Alabama calls me up. Can you come on our radio show? Can we use your thing into the sports paper? And can we use your article online and on our Alabama website? And then ESPN people started contacting me, CBS, Fox. So all of a sudden, I'm sitting there, drinking coffee in my office, and now all of a sudden I'm on national radio shows, and it just kind of took off from there. And I was about to quit. I didn't want to write anymore, and it was just boring me. I thought people were mean online. And then after that, oh my God, it just took off. And I got a job for another company, but my first article I gave them, they wouldn't let me write it because they said it was anti-NFL. And I was writing about the concussion trials.
So what year was this? What year was this?
About 3 years ago. And I wrote 2 years. Yeah, when Kenny died, he died 2.5 years ago. Yeah, so it was like in 2015. And a site, and a big site, they had me write for them, and they were editing everything I was saying. They told me I had to be positive. They didn't want to tick off the NFL. So I just said, I'm doing this by myself. I'm not going to write for anybody, and I'm not going to be told what to do. And that's what I did. And all of a sudden I got all these Twitter followers, and it just blew up.
It feels like you have done a really good job of being in the right place at the right time and putting in the work for that. So that's really impressive. I'm just in awe right now listening to you, just to let you know.
Where do you live out there?
Oh, thanks. A lot of luck too. So yeah.
Where do you live out there, Jim?
I live in Northern California, up where all the fires were. I'm kind of one of those guys. When I was in college, they used to call me Code Blue because it seemed like every time I worked or every time I was around, something disastrous would happen, and it was just a crazy time. So here I am. I'm sitting at home, and we had all these fires, and we had the Nelson fire, which was literally blocks away from my house, and my brother-in-law contacts me and says, look over there, there's smoke. And I'm like, what? And I look, and there's smoke coming over our neighbor's house. So I look, and the mountain is on fire.
Jesus.
So I called 911, and like any person in the new millennium do, I start recording on my cell phone. And I called 911, and she's panicking. Going, I know, we just heard.
Oh, that's when it's bad. So, when you call 911 and they're like, oh, shit, are you serious?
Like, uh-oh.
What's the nature of your emergency? The mountain's on fire.
Yeah. Oh, I know. Oh, my God. So anyway, my neighbors are panicking. They all come in and, evacuate, leave. They're all, cats and dogs living as one. It's insane. And I said, I'm going to walk up there and see. So I literally walked up to the fire, and the firemen, it took them 25 minutes to get to our area.
Jesus.
So here I am filming while it's on fire, and no one's there. Wow. So I put my live videos on Instagram, and all of a sudden Channel 4 is contacting me. Can we talk to you? Can we, so then I look to the right. So if you go on my Instagram, you could see the live reports I did of the fire when it was on, and I literally walked feet from it.
That's crazy.
And the funniest thing I did was there was this huge guy, had to be 6'4", 250. He looked like he played football before, and he lived near me, and he worked for NBC, and he said, he starts filming, and I go, oh my God, there's some friends. The fire was 10 feet from their house. And these houses were not $1 million homes, but those houses were $1 million, $2 million homes, wow. Huge homes. So I said, let's go help. And I grabbed him, and he goes, whoa. He goes, my knee kind of hurts. And I don't know. So he's making all these excuses. I go, are you freaking kidding me? So I went and I helped out one of these people, and then they finally evacuated us, and the fire literally got probably 10 feet from their home.
Oh, my God. That's an amazing story. You're a Raiders fan, and John.
Speaking of a fire, a dumpster fire.
Yeah, if we could keep talking about fires, John here is in the studio with us. John Marchbanks. He watches games and helps stat games out for Pro Football Focus. And
hey John, how you doing?
He's a Raiders fan too, so you guys can cry a little bit. Why do you get rid of Khalil Mack?
Yeah, what do you guys got going on?
Yeah. My father started going to the games before I was even a thought in 1960 when they used to go to the restaurants and they would give kids, and my dad was just a kid, but they would give kids, adults, anyone that would take a ticket, because no one was really going to the games, and they played at Candlestick Park and Frankville Field. So we have a long history. I'm friends with some of the ex-players. I have real connections with the Stabler family. They invited me to the Hall of Fame with them.
Oh, wow.
So I consider these people friends. But I've kind of, when they moved to LA, I kind of became more abstract, where I realized this is a business. I don't really matter if it's a fan does. Grew up a little bit, so I'm a fan, but I also am unique where I'm very honest, and some Raider fans have not liked that, where I have not predicted the Raiders to have a winning record in 15 years other than last year, and I was wrong. So I'm not one of these Pollyannas that they're going to the Super Bowl every year. I was very reluctant a little bit on John Gruden because of his offense. I hate that dink and dunk West Coast offense. Now, I understood it when Gannon and Tim Brown and Jerry Rice were on the team. I'm faster than those guys, so I know that you had to do a dink and dunk offense. But now you have Martavis Bryant, you have Cooper, speedsters, and you have Carr, who could throw 60 yards on a dime. And so I told everyone, I wrote this before the season, I said, the thing you got to worry about is he going to do this dink and dunk offense and zone schemes and all this stuff with the blocking? And if he does, this team is more per speed. This team is more throw it downfield.
They need to open it up like the Chiefs are doing or something like that. I totally agree.
Yeah. Andy Reid gets nervous if you throw it past 3 yards. And
right.
But I used to call Alex Smith the Ichabod Crane of the NFL, because the guy won't throw past 5 yards.
Right.
And so Andy Reid, to his credit, has embraced Mahomes, because Mahomes in college, he would just chuck it anywhere. I watched one game against Oklahoma, and I think the final score was like 69-62.
I know that game.
And it was some crazy game. I remember he threw it in quadruple coverage, and his guy out jumped the Oklahoma guys.
Gotta have faith in your receivers.
He's fearless. He stares down receivers a little bit too much sometimes, but the guy's got a rocket arm and he's accurate. And I think he's a breath of fresh air. I'm tired of this West Coast offense. I'm an old school Raider. I want to see Cliff Branch catching 90-yard passes. I want to going down the Sabres throwing deep. That's what I like in football. I love deep balls. So this offense is really cringing me. And I knew when
it's
Matt got traded,
it's cringeworthy.
I understand what they're saying. I understand what they said with Matt. They don't want to pay him that much money. But I think the Raiders have not picked a true defensive lineman since 1998. And in that time, they picked 9 defensive backs in the first round, and it hasn't worked. The NFL has changed. You have to get to the quarterback.
You got
That's
pass
why
rush.
The Rams are paying buku. Got to have a pass rush.
The Chargers.
These rules are they make passing way too easy. Wide receivers can prance through the middle, can't even barely hit them anymore, or it's a penalty. So the Raiders, though, have this obsession that they want the soul patrol. They want the old school Willie Brown, Jack Tatum, and you're not going to win that way. You have to have a defensive front seven that kicks butt and gets to the quarterback and stops the run. The Raiders haven't got the memo yet. I still don't believe in what they're doing. The Raider fans, oh my God, we got the greatest pass rush. I warned them in preseason, this is not the real world. This is fake. Let's see what they do in the real season. I just rewatched the Raider game for the third time, and when they rush against Denver, and when they rush 4 guys, they do not have a pass rush.
I can't believe you just said you watched the game for the third time.
That's just
that's dedication.
Yeah.
You know what? I really love. So I used to coach with my dad. dad was a longtime coach in Napa, great coach. So I really love the film, and that's why I like PFF. I love the stats. I love the film. But I counted, and it was amazing how poor their pass rush was when they just rushed 4 guys. It was almost scary bad. And even when they blitzed a linebacker, it wasn't that great. Their biggest success was blitzing DBs, and that's where they did better. But yeah, I predicted the Raiders 7-9, 8-8, and I'm probably sticking with it because their schedule is really easy. They don't play a team that won a playoff game for the rest of the year.
Oh, wow. I'm glad you brought up how the league is changing, and we talk about that a lot of times on our show, and I talk about it on Twitter. There's just, there's teams that are going to get left in the dust. It's kind of like some of these car dealerships that are stuck in 1980s. It's all internet now, and some of these guys are still wearing their ties and like, hey, what's it going to take to make a deal? That's what I feel like John Gruden is doing with this team. Let's talk about, how the game is changing and what players you really like in fantasy this year.
I think fantasy has greatly changed too, because if you look at the days of the LT, and I won so many leagues with Tom Brady, it isn't ridiculous. It's ridiculous. The year that he had his record year, they were loaded and they had such a good offensive line. I picked Tom Brady first in a yearly league, and everyone thought I was nuts. And he was by far the highest scoring player. So I think when you talk fantasy, you have to look, if you're talking a dynasty, you have to look, one, what's the shape of the team? When people were taking, what's his name, Johnson from the Cardinals, I just
David
thought
Johnson.
That was insane. Yeah, because their O-line, they just traded their best, or they just lost their best tackle in Valdir. Their great coach retired. They have no quarterback. Sam Bradford, that guy's been stealing money for years, and I'm an Oklahoma fan, so I love Sam. He's a great guy. Does a lot off the field, but anyway, so their offense is, teams are just filling the box. They're putting 7 and 8 in the box and saying pass. And so a guy like that, I don't see his future real good in the next couple of years. Where you look at Thomas of New Orleans, Brees says he wants to play a couple more years. That guy he makes silly plays sometimes, like the other day when he fumbled after he made he makes a first down, he should just fall, and instead he's reaching out for more yards and he fumbles. But he's learning, but God, that guy's got great talent. And I also love Saquon Barkley. In college, there was nothing he couldn't do, and he reminds me a lot of Emmitt Smith, and I think that he's going to be a superstar. Eli Manning, his days, he's never been a great quarterback, but now he missed a lot of passes.
He doesn't look down. He doesn't look downfield anymore, and I think that's going to really benefit Barkley because that line is not very good. I mean, they drafted Will Hernandez, and Will Hernandez has been pretty good, but that line's not good. He doesn't look downfield anymore. I mean, that's going to be, what did Barkley catch the other day? 14 balls.
Yeah, but I think he's also scared of being in the New York media. I dated a girl from New York for a short time, and they're just a different animal. That is just a crazy place, and their media is the most vicious, even more than Philly. It's the most vicious media I've ever seen. So I think he's really freaked out about, because a lot of people wanted him out this year, and they didn't want him playing. And I think he's like, I am not going to screw up. I am going to play it safe, and you've got the best receiver in the NFL. Throw the dang ball downfield. Allow your players to make plays. And I agree with you. Eli Manning made his name by those 2 great drives he did in the Super Bowl, and having an amazing defensive line that beat the Patriots. But I agree with you. But I love Saquon Barkley. He's that guy that can just do it all. So when I'm picking fantasy, if I was picking, when you pick dynasty, to me, if I'm an offensive player, I look at one. What's their scheme? What are they doing? Are they throwing 30 or 40 times a game, or are they running, they grinding? I also look at how good their offensive line is. the line and the quarterback are key, because if you can't pass the ball, I don't care if you're the best running back in the NFL, you're not going to get the stats. So I think those are the things that I look at, and obviously age is a big deal. But I think that there's still I think Dynasty is still evolving. I think it's still in the younger stages, and I think there's a lot to learn about it. But I think what people should do is trust your instincts. If you have a formula, I have a formula when I do my drafting, and when I do my fantasy. And usually I do really well. I'm a diamond level, and I was actually asked to be in the Yahoo Hall of Fame for fantasy.
Wow.
And I didn't do it. I thought that was weird. I'm just a schmuck on the couch, and I'm going to be in some Hall of Fame. But so I took it really seriously, because I'm going against my friends, and I want to beat them. But I think the big thing is I do not follow Yahoo. Sorry, Yahoo. I do stuff for Yahoo sometimes, but sorry, Yahoo. But I don't follow the experts. I don't follow. It's kind of like we have an old saying in the medical field. What do you call a guy that barely passes medical school? Doctor.
Right.
And that's what I told ESPN. I talked to a couple of people who do. I said, "What's your guys' success rate?" I want to follow guys that win leagues,
right,
or at least are competitive in leagues. There's one guy in Yahoo that's been doing this for years. He's never even won a league. Why am I going to listen to him? The guy's a good-looking guy, and he's got great personality, but that isn't winning me leagues. It may be great for dating, but it's not going to help my league.
There are a lot of experts out there.
Yeah. So what I stopped doing 15 years ago, I stopped listening to experts.
Yeah,
I
that's
stopped
good advice.
To what they said.
That's good advice.
And I did it. Yeah, and I did it on my own. I don't know how many times people told me, play this guy, pick this guy, and they would play him all year, and he would get nothing. Yep. He would just be horrible. T.Y. Hilton was a great one a couple years ago. He was horrible, and it wasn't his fault because they had no quarterback. But yet he was a top wide receiver pick. He wasn't even on my draft board.
He shouldn't have been with Andrew Luck out of the lineup.
Exactly.
I mean, he got overdrafted.
But yet, a lot on ESPN, a lot of people just had him so high up. When DHB was with the Raiders, oh my God, that was one of the most horrible picks of all time. But anyway, DHB was on the Raiders, and he had one game, and then for 5 weeks he's trending as a top 15, top 20 wide receiver. I'm a Raider fan. He's never a top 15.
Yeah, pretty sure I owned him that year.
We just call him Jim. We just call him DH because he drops the B.
He does. And you know what's funny? I think is the best he ever was at Maryland was a second team All-American. If you get the book that the ex-Raider front office did a great book. I'll email you the name of it. And I've read it, and it had all they talked about their relationship with Al Davis for 20 years. And how they drafted, how they picked. Al Davis purely went by the 40 times.
Yep, the fastest guy on the field.
So when Crabtree was the number one wide receiver, Al hated his 40 times, so that was the only reason he picked. DHB wasn't even that good at Maryland. There was a story that was really funny. When Marcus Allen came out of USC, Marcus Allen was the slowest running back probably in the draft. He ran a 4.8 40, so he had no speed. The front office knew how good Marcus could be, though. So what they did is they lied to Al Davis and told him he ran a 4.69 40. So Al Davis, because he ran a 4.69 40 and he wasn't super slow, Al Davis picked him.
That's amazing. I've never heard that.
They had to lie to Al.
I've never heard that.
You should get this book. This book has so many insights in it about Al Davis and his relationship with all his players. There's a famous story. Phil Villapiano, I'm friends with Villapiano, the nicest people in the world. Hey, Andrea, that's his daughter. But Phil said he got a call, and he went up to the NFL, or Phil got a call from Al, and Al said, "Do you like this guy Chandler?" And he says, "Sure." And the wide receiver Chandler out of Buffalo, and he goes, "Well, I just traded you for him." I mean, that's how cutthroat Al could be. And I still think, because the Raiders were moving to LA at that time, and Phil Villapiano spoke out against it. And I still think Al Phil says he swears he didn't, but I think Al held a grudge against him. But I'll get you the name of that book. Any Raider fan should read it. It is fascinating.
That's awesome.
To tell you exactly what happened with Al Davis during the drafts, during the pre-drafts. Just amazing.
Jim, it's been so nice having you on, man. We're kind of running on our time, but I was just, I was happy to talk fantasy with you, and also happy to talk about, everything you've done, because I'm convinced you're the Dos Equis guy. I really am.
No, I've as many accomplishments I've made, I have the same amount of screw up. So I've learned a lot in life, but I think you guys have a good show. Make sure you give me the link.
Absolutely.
To the show, and I'll make sure to promote it, and let's keep a relationship going. Love to have you guys on the podcast. We're going to be doing some live shows, and we're also actually thinking of doing a show at Ricky's, which is the restaurant here that John Gruden had his party at. They listen to our shows and they like us, so we're really thinking of having a lot of good things going on. And
that would be great. I'd love to
help you. We'd love to help you guys grow too. I'm not one of these crash and burn where I want to grind everyone to dust. I like when everyone succeeds. So
good. That's
anything
fantastic.
we could do for you, or I could do for you, just say the word and I'll do it. And anytime you need me on, just say the word and I'll be on.
Appreciate it, Jim. Give them real quick, give the listeners the name of your podcast and then your Twitter handle so that they know where to find you at.
Jim Jacks Media is my Twitter handle, and our podcast, we've just created the Raiders Podcasting Network. It's at and you can follow us on Twitter at Raiders Podcasts, and but go to the RaiderPodcastNetwork.org.
Right.
And we've just created it. We have 3 shows going. We also have the only female-led Raider show in the world.
There you go.
So
wow.
So we want women followers. Their shows are getting thousands of hits. The Pillaging podcast is already a legend. We're getting national recognition from some of the stations. So we're gonna kick butt.
That's the one that I heard was really good.
And
yeah, we want. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, he was saying that he's heard that one's really good, and I just, like I said, I appreciate you coming on and giving us that boost and just like hanging out and talking to us about football and everything else that you talked to us about, because that was not what I was expecting when Paulie told me about it.
Oh, you guys, life should be fun. Everyone just keep it fun. Make sure everyone has a good time. Everyone learns something along the way. And again, anything you guys need, we want everyone to succeed. So we're going to go to the top. That's what our goal is. And anyone that wants to come with us, we'll take them.
Man, I appreciate it, man. I'm going to come out to California and have a beer with you.
Thanks, Jim. God bless, man.
Oh, you're come out here. Your money's no good. We'll take care of you.
All right, man. Have a good one.
Take care, guys.
That was a great interview. That completely blew my mind. That was not what I expected at all.
The fires and sleep labs and Ken Stabler's, Hall of Fame induction. I mean, did I tell you this guy was
good.
like fire?
I liked it. I liked it a lot.
The more I got into, like going into his bio and introducing him and just kind of letting him go, I just decided, you know what? We talk about fantasy football all the time.
Yeah.
Like,
let him go, dude. Let's hear it.
He likes Michael Thomas and he likes Saquon Barkley. Yeah. So trade for those guys, and I like those guys too. But everything else was just like so great to just hear all the stories and everything. And like I said, like I told you guys this week, this guy's kind of a big deal.
And I like the inclusion. He's hey, we're going to the top of the mountain. We want to take you with us.
Yeah, he's like, we'll promote you guys. We'll help you out. Anything you need. So that's fantastic. So we're going to go to Jackson and DraftKings.
Yeah, let's get back to it, man.
well, how the hell do I follow, that? I mean, I might as well just close the show and just be done off Jim. I mean, that was great. I mean, there's nothing more you can say. But kind of back to what I was saying, just differentiate. That's a hard word to say.
Differentiate.
Right. So try a synonym.
I don't even know.
Another word that sounds like
I'm in college. I'm trying to learn.
Oh, no, I messed that up. Never mind.
But I mean, just mess with the lineups. I mean, just critique. I mean, our greatest one could be even better. I mean, just adjust.
We had some good lineups last week, guys. Our cash lineup didn't hit, but about half of our tournament lineups that I posted hit. And I was telling these guys before, I saw, guys bragging on paid content lineups that did hit that were 165, 170 points. Yep. And we had 177, 179, and 183. So I actually didn't see anybody on Twitter the last few days bragging about their lineups higher than any of those three that we did. So we just didn't have the focus, and we're going to keep working on it. And people did win money.
And like you guys said, bankroll management, if it was me managing this by myself, I'd already be down probably 40 or 50 bucks,
and the way
as opposed to just kind of almost breaking even.
The way that I play, one big week will pay for the whole year.
Right.
And that's what happened with us last year.
I mean, the biggest thing, like last week, what happened to us, we had, out of the 9 positions you're allotted, 7 of them had double-digit points. So, we had a good lineup. It was just the guys that were going like ham. We just didn't. So, this week, hey, it's a new week, so we're gonna go from there. But yeah, if you guys check us out on pauliesleepers.com, on the front page, scroll down, you see where it says DraftKings articles. I wrote a little article today, kind of with our picks, like who we're looking at each position. So just check that out. I'm kind of gonna skim through this real quick for you. So at the quarterback position, I'm looking at Deshaun Watson, 6,100. He goes up against the Giants. They have yet to face a potent receiving core. You look at it, the O-line for Houston is shit. That is an understatement. Watson's been sacked 7 times. But Watson's also ran the ball 13 times for 84 yards this year. So almost like the poor man's, he's the rich man's version of Tyrod Taylor when you come to building a cash game build. For 6,100 going up against the Giants, sign me up.
Are we going to pair him with Will Fuller like we always do?
Stay tuned.
Spoiler alert.
So I'm not going to mention Mr. Fuller, but if you go to pauliesleepers.com, I'm going to keep plugging away.
Yeah.
Go to the website, look at that, and you'll see our detailed breakdown of Fuller and all other plays.
And guys, make sure you go later on in the week, because we're going to post here probably tonight or tomorrow, and then we'll make changes. So last week our lineups weren't finalized till Saturday, so just wait. There's no real reason to put in your lineups now, because it doesn't lock till game time, and lots of things happen.
Yeah, hour by hour they change. So yeah, at the running back position, the key component I'm looking at is Kareem Hunt at 6,000. The implied total in Kansas City versus San Fran is 56 points. You look at it, everyone's going to go playing Tyreek Hill, Patrick Mahomes, Sammy Watkins, and Travis Kelce. The lone man being forgotten is freaking Kareem Hunt.
So you don't see this game shooting like...
I see it shooting, but I think he's going to get more involved. I really do. He's seen... He has
1 target in 2 games, so I hope they throw him the ball a little bit.
Yeah, only this year Hunt has 124 yards on the ground to go with 1 catch for 5 yards. Positive regression is coming for him, and he's going up against San Fran, who ranks 3rd in DVOA, but 23rd in DVOA to pass catching running backs. They've allowed 180 yards on the ground to the running back, as well as 21 receptions for 122 yards. So if you're telling me this game's going to be high scoring, I want Kareem Hunt for that cheap discounted price.
And he's gone down in price, so he's 50.
He's 6,000.
Oh, 6,000. I'm all in. Okay, sounds good.
So at the wide receiver position, Paulie's going to love this. It is a Keenan Allen week. It is not Melvin Gordon. And you're probably saying, why? Like, they're playing the Rams. They have 2 good corners on the outside. But wait, he plays in the slot.
Yeah, he feasts in the middle of the field. Yeah. He plays in the slot.
He plays in the slot. They rank the Rams rank 3rd in DVOA against wide receiver ones. In one career game versus the Rams, Keenan Allen played in St. Louis against Jeff Fisher, and he went for 6, 104, and 1. He has a 20, according to Pro Football Focus on their wide receiver cornerback chart, he has a 24% advantage over nickel Roby Coleman. He has 6 inches on him and 31 pounds as well on Coleman. I think for 7,300, he is lock and stone.
He's a half a foot taller than the guy checking him.
Yeah. So
that's a good play.
If you think about it, there's a good possibility of the Rams shut the Chargers out. Rivers has a 3-4 interception game. But I mean, they're going to be throwing the ball if they're behind. So, and Keenan Allen will be the respectable person he'll be throwing to.
What tight end do we like this week, man?
The tight end I'm going for is Trey Boo Boo.
You like Trey Burton?
Trey Burton at 3,900. The Cardinals ranked 28th in DVOA to the tight end position. He has been targeted 10 times in a total of 2 weeks. I mean, if you watch some of the games, I mean, Mitch Trubisky looks like very hesitant to even throw the ball. I mean, I think Matt Nagy's going to unleash him going against a crappy Cardinals defense. I mean, for 3,900, you need 8-9 points just to make
play. I like the play, and he's been devalued because he's had a couple off weeks, but he's going to be the cornerstone of that offense. Yep. And like you said, they're going to want to unleash it. They're going to want to show everybody what they can do. So I like that play. What about, we talked about the defense. Are we still on the same defense?
Yeah, we're still on the same defense. I mean, I think the two most popular plays this week will be the Vikings and Jags. But I mean, we want to give you something different. We are a different podcast. We are a different group of people, and we want to help you win. The defense we're looking at for savings to pay up at the wide receiver, at the quarterback, at the running back, that's the Cowboys. The Cowboys play the Seattle Seahawks in Seattle. But like you're probably saying, dude, Russell Wilson might just have one of those games. They're 0-2 right now. But at 2,200, you are paying for sacks. Russell Wilson has been sacked 12 times this year. And what is the strongest part of the Dallas defense? Their defensive line. So if they get you 5 sacks and allow a couple points and a couple yards, you're still making positive points. So, I mean, that's all you need at 2,200.
It's not going to take much for them to score what we need them to score. I mean, at 2,200, we want them to get, 6 points?
You need 6 points.
So
6 points, 6.5, 6.7. But
I think it's a great contrarian play. I mean, there are people that are starting to get on this play, though. There's been a lot of traction on Dallas defense this week. But on your cash lineups, we're not worried about ownership.
No.
When I do my GPP tournaments, I have to worry about ownership, and there's been a lot of traction, so I might kind of fade off of them just because a lot of people are going to play them. I think a lot of people like that price.
Yep.
So everything else is going to be on the website, guys.
Yeah, everything. Yep.
And just like I said, check in, this week, and then check in later on for changes, because there's a lot of injuries we talked about earlier. So there's going to be a lot of value plays based on injuries. That's why we smashed on.
We didn't lock in our cash game lineup until Saturday afternoon.
Yeah.
I mean, so many different things changes, but just check our Twitter, Paulie Sleepers. Check our website, pauliesleepers.com. Check Juice in the Morning on Twitter. I mean, we have so much covered and so much we can help you guys out. So just check us out, and we'd love to help you.
And Jackson runs the website for me. So like when you go in there, you like it. It's got all of our old podcasts. It's still got our rankings from this year. He's done all that for me. So, cause I am inept. I think next we're going to talk about, some rough starts here with John.
And some players you might be worried about. Are they welcome to Dropsville yet?
Yeah. Are they welcome to Dropsville, or are we holding on and not worrying about some of these slow starts? What do you say, John?
So one of the first ones I want to go over is Adrian Peterson. He started out really strong in the first week. This last week he put up a dud. He is looking to have kind of a bounce back week. I think the Green Bay Packers run defense is ranked around the bottom of the league. So there's going to be that with Aaron Rodgers being hobbled. You never know how that's going to be. The Washington Redskins defense, I think, is underrated. They do a really good job all around. So I think if the Washington Redskins defense can, keep Aaron Rodgers bottled up, then Adrian Peterson can, get the volume that he needs to be productive here in fantasy. So I have a positive outlook on Adrian Peterson here.
So he's gonna keep being good, but he had a good first couple weeks.
He had a good first week.
1 week.
I thought the second week was Colts kind of shut him down a little bit.
Yeah.
I think he put up 1 or 2 points fantasy wise. So
yeah, the Colts shut him down big time.
In other terms, he shit the bed.
Yeah.
So you think he's going to keep going?
I think that if this game plays out to where the Redskins get up early, I think that Adrian Peterson can get that volume he needs to be relevant in fantasy.
Yeah, because he wears people out. I don't think he's any different now than he used to be in that aspect.
Right. If they get behind, though, then Adrian Peterson's not going to be a viable option. They're going to have to start throwing it, and Chris Thompson's going to be the guy.
All right, who else we got?
LaShawn McCoy is been terrible so far.
Are you ready to drop him if you own him in a league?
I don't know if I would drop him. He'd definitely be stashed on my bench right now, especially with the injury that he has coming up and just how terrible the Bills are. They have to find somebody
I
else.
didn't expect them to be this bad.
Yeah,
I thought they were going to be better than they are.
I mean, they're that bad. Vontae Davis retired at halftime. The Leslie Frazier, the defensive coordinator, was benched almost at halftime. They brought in who's the head coach there? McDermott. He called defensive plays. For the
How
rest
do you
of the,
bench your defensive coordinator?
I didn't know that was an option.
I didn't know it was an option to just stop playing football in the middle of the game either. And people were like, "Oh, did you read his article? You know, he was mentally torn and he's had these injuries and that's worn him down, and you just don't understand him." I'm like, "Yeah, but you don't quit in the middle of a game. Like that's a bad." McCoy to me is definitely Worriesville. You can't drop him. There's no value in a trade unless you find a Bills fan somewhere.
Somebody offered me him, and I was like, no.
No, yeah, people were trying to trade him big time. It just, unfortunately, you just have to put him down on the bottom of your waivers and hope that he gets healthy and the rookie starts clicking on the offense, but I would be worried.
Yeah, it's kind of goes along with the same thing that Jim Jack said earlier when he was talking. You got to look at the state of the team, and that team is just garbage. So LaShawn McCoy's not going to be able to do anything.
Right.
He may have one good week out of the next.
And that's another thing that I thought, just thinking about LaShawn McCoy, when somebody offered me him in a trade, is like, he might still be a good player, but if he's the only good player on the team, he can't. I mean, he's not going to be able to beat 10 men in the box or 11 guys in the box kind of thing.
Well, when we think about fantasy football, and I tweeted this out the other day, the next time McCoy goes off, and it'll be sometime in the next month, he's going to go off on your bench.
Exactly.
I mean, the Bills are so bad, they're looking to bring back Thurman Thomas.
Jeez.
And he's 52 years old.
Anyways, okay, so who's the next guy?
I have somebody that kind of can give you some worry is Julio Jones this week. He was out of practice today. They didn't disclose whether it was a Veterans Day off or whether it was some sort of nagging injury. So keep an eye on his injury status. This weekend could be a blow-up weekend for him. I mean, they're playing against New Orleans, so it could be a shootout. You never know.
Very easily could be a shootout.
Yeah, but you don't want to start Julio Jones and then figure out Sunday morning that
he's hurt.
Yeah, he's hurt. So
and if he's out, you play Sanu. I think Sanu. I mean, people are going to grab or navigate
to Calvin Ridley
and Austin Hooper, but you play Sanu.
I think Julio's fine. He's always managing some lower body injury, and you're right. I saw that today too. We don't know if it was Veterans Day off or an injury. It's probably a little bit of both. I think Julio's going to be fine. I think the problem is Marshawn Lattimore, the last year's rookie for New Orleans that just shut everybody down last year, including Julio. I mean, I can't remember the game log, but Julio's had a soft game against Marshawn, maybe like 5 for 60. So the injury wouldn't worry me as much as, that game's going to shoot, but it might not shoot in his direction because that cornerback is just so good.
Yep.
And then the last person that I think you should be really worried about, if you have Alex Smith starting in your team, I would bench him. The Packers actually have the ninth.
Pick up Fitzmagic. I mean, that's a good callback on your early segment that you had with the waiver ads.
Yeah. Alex Smith he's playing the 9th rated cover defense this week. So, he's not that great in my opinion anyway. So, playing against a really good coverage opponent, I don't think that he's a good play this week. So,
John, thank you for selling me that. I have Alex Smith and Andy Dalton on my team for my fantasy, so I'm gonna play Dalton now.
I think that's a good call.
And since he plays who?
Carolina.
Oh yeah, that's a good play.
Yep.
That's a good play. Right on, man. Thanks.
Thank you for sharing those trouble players. If they're on your team, keep an eye out.
Just keep an eye
out for those guys. And like I said, man, pick up Fitzmagic. I don't know. I just like him.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan. The wide receiver cornerback matchups, Jax, what do we got going on this week? I know we've talked a lot about all these guys already, but is there anything that sticks out to you for the wide receiver cornerbacks?
So we go to Pro Football Focus and we get this stat, and this is who has the best advantages.
So kind of to just, I'm going to quickly go through it.
Yeah.
The best matchup of the week is Pittsburgh with Antonio Brown going against Ryan Smith of Tampa Bay. But
even though the Pittsburgh team might be imploding.
Yeah. But what sucks, I look at this chart and I see so many different people that are playing on Thursday night, Sunday night, and Monday night. Those aren't options for us in daily fantasy. So it's like, damn, this is going to be boring because I would be targeting freaking Juju. I'd be targeting Antonio, Golden Tate, freaking Jarvis Landry, but I can't. So just to help you guys out with your daily stuff, AJ Green has the second best matchup. And if you also go through on pauliesleepers.com, look at our article we wrote today. He's written up in our piece. Goes up against James Bradbury at a 53% advantage. Bradbury is 3 inches shorter. And also runs a significant slower 40-yard dash.
So what would be the, like, when you talk about that percentage real quick, because the people that are following may not know that, is a 50 is what's a good percentage? Is
Yeah,
53,
like 25 is good.
Yeah.
So 53 is like out of this world good.
Yeah, it's how John, a bunch of his colleagues at Pro Football Focus, when they grade players, they put it all into a pool. I don't know how you guys calculate over there, but I mean, it's just graded out, kind of like what they've done this season, who they faced so far. But I mean, your top 3 are Antonio Brown, AJ Green, and DeAndre Hopkins. I mean, arguably those could be, per se,
right,
top 3 in the league, and I mean, how you view them. But I mean, AJ Green's in a smash spot according to this chart. The other person that you could play possibly on Sunday in DFS would be Emmanuel Sanders. Now you might be saying,
I like Emmanuel.
yeah, I mean, he's been straight balling out in the slot. But I mean, you might look at, hey, they're playing Baltimore. Hey, it's gonna be a lower scoring game. But who plays in the slot for Cincinnati and just blew them up? Tyler Boyd. He went for 9
for 85 or something.
And a touchdown.
And a touch. Yeah.
I mean, straight killed him. And I mean, Emmanuel Sanders has a true connection with Case Keenum. So I mean, if you're looking for a contrarian play, that means like just out of this world. Like, hey, that's a bad matchup, but according to the data, it is
Go
not.
for it.
At 6,400, play Emmanuel Sanders all day long.
And slot player was like in our first episode last year. We talked to Juice about, just follow these slot guys, and it's something that you don't see as often. It's just staring everybody right in the face. But the slot players are taking over the league right now. If you see the top wide receivers, Michael Thomas has caught 28 of his 30 targets so far this year, 93% catch rate. He's just blowing up. Juju is blowing up. I love Cooper Cup, who's doing well.
Cooper Cup won me my matchup week 1.
They put Golden Tate in the slot last year, and he's had just great success ever since they put him in there. Emmanuel Sanders, Adam Thielen. So these are viable players, and that's why, man.
I mean, on the other end, on this chart, you're going to have your positives and you're going to have your negatives. Some people you might not want to play, even for your season-long and daily fantasy stuff. Corey Davis, he goes up against Jacksonville. He'll be facing A.J. Boye. He has a negative 22% disadvantage. With so much murkiness over there with their quarterback and their running game, stay away from Corey Davis.
Haven't we wanted to stay away from Corey Davis all this year, though?
Yeah, I did not rank him high. I don't like that team. I don't think LaFleur is going to get that team together.
No, they don't even have the right. The people are saying they don't have the right quarterback.
Yeah, Mariota's shoulder is hurt, and he didn't play last week. Or I don't know that they play both of them. I think Blaine Gabbert threw the ball like 20 times.
The best quarterback in that game was Bayard Beard.
Yeah, Kevin Bird.
Yeah, safety threw the touchdown pass.
Yeah, and that team is just not good. I said that Derrick Henry is way too highly ranked, that Mariota is way too highly ranked. I liked Dion Lewis, and I still do, because I think they're going to have to dump the ball off, but he didn't have a very good week last week. But I totally agree with that. And I think Corey Davis is an amazing player in a bad spot and a bad offense.
So is that the wide receiver cornerback matchups?
Out of the gist, your great guys have good matchups. So that was the most predominant player that has the worst matchup.
So and if you want to see questions,
if you want to see this broken down a lot more, go to pauliesleepers.com. And then we got a couple of listener questions that I want to just run through really quick.
Now, when Juice gives me the questions, he never gives me a preview.
No,
so
definitely not.
I have some questions to answer too, but Juice is going to throw a few at me that I don't have any pre-knowledge of.
So we just talked about Emmanuel Sanders. This is from Paul Schroyer from the Pointless Discussions podcast. He's actually a lot more avid fantasy football player than I expected. He's been listening along to the podcast and really interacting with us. He asks, who should I start? Kenny Stills from Miami against Oakland or Emmanuel Sanders from Denver against Baltimore?
Well, we just answered that.
Yeah,
Manny Sanders.
I think you're going to Emmanuel Sanders all day there, Paul.
I love Stills, and he had an off week last week. I think he's the best wide receiver on that team, but Emmanuel Sanders is he's in a different tier.
Yeah, but
so,
even
absolutely.
Kenny still has a bad matchup going against the former Colt, Rashad Melvin in Oakland.
Okay. So the matchup says no. Everything says no. Yeah, Emmanuel Sanders.
Last one. This is from R. Wilson, who's also in our listener league. If you're drafting today in redraft, which round would you draft David Johnson?
He's asking us that because we drafted David Johnson in the listener league, I think. Didn't we? Yeah, we did.
I got a 4-letter word. I'm gonna keep it off the chart.
Yeah, because he's asking that because Jackson and I drafted him in the first round, and actually Jim Jacks said earlier, like, that was a bad play. So we probably made a bad play there. We still have a really good team, but
he's not a bad player. That's the problem.
It's just a tough spot.
He's just in a bad spot.
He's in a tough spot. The freaking the Mike McCoy is the offensive coordinator over there. I think he literally borrowed John Fox's play guide, how to call an offense. I mean, they're not even giving any targets to David Johnson, and that's what he's good at.
That's what he's good at, yeah.
The answer, Wilson, is probably late in the third round, you bastard.
That's keeping it clean.
John Basket is asking if he should trade Breeze and Rashad Penny for Alex Smith and Chris Thompson. And I think, you could stream quarterback, so I'm fine giving away Breeze because Penny is really not startable right now. Chris Thompson can be like a very high-end running back too this year. So I say stream quarterbacks and take that trade. Tyson wants to know, should he trade Zeke for Michael Thomas? Yes. And I think we've answered that question.
Absolutely.
But all depends on who he has on his team, though.
He did say who else he had, and it was fine.
Okay.
I didn't write it down.
If you have enough depth to trade an all-star, a badass running back, for a really good receiver, you just have to have really good depth at your running back position to do that.
He answered, he did say that. I didn't write it down, but it was enough depth that I was fine giving out Zeke. And then Jeremy wants to know, do I play George Kittle or Disley this week? Jack, I'm going to let you answer that.
Yeah, George Kittle. That's another guy written up. So if you go to, like I said, keep plugging away. Go to PaulieSleepers. And George Kittle's written up. He actually has the 7th best matchup according to Pro Football Focus on the tight end. They have a tight end safety chart, matchup chart. It's actually pretty badass. But Kittle, I would definitely play him. But I mean, other than that, even on the daily fantasy part, his price went up significantly from last week. He shit the bed on us, and everyone's going to fade off of him. Play him again and going against Kansas City. Only problem is Eric Berry looks to be back. So, I mean, if there's any coverage coming down on him to Kittle, it might be a little issue, but Garoppolo's going to have to throw to somebody, and Goodwin doesn't look like he's going to play.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So basically, I wanted to run down through the Listener League real quick because all the guys that are in the Listener League definitely pay attention to the podcast. And I wanted to say that I think it was a comeback to reality week for the guys that are in the on the podcast playing against the rest of the teams, because last week 1 we destroyed everybody. Nobody was even close to Paulie Sleepers.
Paulie Sleepers and Juice both destroyed week 1, and we both lost week 2.
Week 2 was a comeback to earth, but I really think week 2 was that week 2 slump. That happens a lot in just the NFL football season. Week 1 comes out, everybody's ready to fire, ready to go. You got a lot of good matchups, whereas week 2 sometimes it just week 2, when I was watching football on Sunday, was like, well, this guy's going to fucking score because nobody knows who his name is. This guy's going to score because we've never seen him touch the ball all year. This fullback's going to run in a touchdown. It was just fucking frustrating. Weeks. That's the way it goes. It goes every year. There's at least 1 or 2 weeks that are like that because teams are game planning against each other. And they're like, oh, well, you guys haven't ever seen this guy, so we're going to use him. It's just, it's the way it goes. It's going to be okay. Our teams are good. I think my team is solid. I think I'm still got a really good chance of winning. But, Listener League, we still do have openings for sponsorships, so if anybody listening knows anybody that's interested in getting some sponsorships on the podcast, just hit us up, because we're going to be able to get a good prize pot for the winner, which is probably going to be me anyways.
Thank God Josh Gordon's not on this show. He just heard pot.
I told
I mean, just saying.
I told Jackson after we lost, I told him, I think I forgot to tell you that Dan Barlow, who beat us this week, is like my nemesis in fantasy football. He's been in the league of record with me, Russian roulette, and his success rate against me is a solid 75%. So I had a bad feeling when I saw the matchup with Dan, and damn it, he won again, and we made a big mistake, and I hope we're not doing the same thing with the Dallas defense on DraftKings this week, but we played the road defense, and we played the road Thursday defense. So we played that Baltimore matchup against Cincinnati, and good God, Cincinnati just came out and the 3 touchdowns in a row.
Yeah, and
to
what? AJ Green had like 4 catches.
And
5 catches for like 90 yards.
And Dan is just breaking the laughing emoji.
I know.
On our
He's
text
just hammering it.
just hammering it, because I mean, he knew it too. I knew he was going to beat me. He knew he was going to beat me. Also, there was a trade this week. Wilson, like, he says he rents players for a week.
I don't know about that. I don't know about that strategy. It's a bold move, Cotton.
We
We'll see if it
traded
pays off for him.
we traded for LaShawn McCoy.
Yeah.
And we traded away the Baltimore dude,
Buck Allen.
Buck Allen.
Okay.
Yeah. So we had Alex Collins and Buck Allen. So we got Buck Allen thinking, Dixon was hurt, so just in case Collins got hurt, that Buck would be a good pickup. But even though that McCoy's been doing so bad, we kind of need running back depth, and I thought I would definitely trade LaShawn McCoy for Buck Allen.
Oh yeah,
so
absolutely.
I clicked the OK button on that, but he sends out trades, I think, on the hour.
Yep.
So I know you've gotten 100 of them. The other team that's really, really good, do you have the matchups pulled up there? Jersey Shore, I think I mentioned it the day we drafted. I think I mentioned it last week.
He has a good team.
Yeah, he does. Like, what's his projection this week?
114, and he's got Stafford starting, Kenyon Drake, Deion Lewis, Odell Beckham Jr., Stephon Diggs, Zach Ertz, Schuster, and New England's defense. On his bench, he has Leonard Fournette, Wentz, Devin Funchess, Doxson, Tarek Cohen, and Cassius Clay, I'm guessing. No, it's not Cassius.
No, Charles Clay.
Charles Clay. He's got
the Buffalo Bills probably could use Cassius Clay right now.
Absolutely.
But he'll probably be starting Leonard Fournette. I think,
unless he's hurt.
I think Jeff is undefeated and Josh is undefeated.
There's three
and Dan is
2-0
undefeated,
teams.
and those are all the other Russian roulette guys that are in our league.
Right.
So Russian
We're
roulette
gonna get them some losses. Don't worry about it.
represent. Except for me, I'm 1-1. All the other guys, they're all really happy. They were like, "Raise your hand if you're 2-0."
Right.
So we definitely wanted to spend some time talking about the listener league. I got some
Needed a middle
crap.
finger emoji.
Yeah, I got some crap last week for not talking about it enough, and later on in the year when we have more to talk about, we're gonna have all these guys call in, so they could talk about different trades and how their years.
Yeah, and I want to hear how they feel about the whole thing. I want to say we're getting into hour and 30, so let's do this NFL rapid fire blitz.
Oh yeah, man. So we're gonna go over some of the games.
I'm gonna have
but we're
segment
gonna do
music for this next time.
We're gonna do it a lot faster than we did.
Like a Chris Berman. Dun.
Yes, absolutely.
Like the 2-minute drill.
Yes.
Christian McCaffrey is going to catch 100 balls this year. Devin Funchess is the guy with Greg Olsen out 7 for 77 last week. I told everybody to pick him up. Cam is Cam. He took a hell of a shot last week. Took a really big hit and was in like 2 plays later, like always happens with Cam. Those are the guys to have there for sure. Atlanta, Tevin Coleman, the IU boy, is the guy to play with Freeman out. Talked about it on Twitter last week. Got some shit for playing Coleman, and everybody was really quiet when I was like, how many yards does he have? 100, 120, 140? So Tevin Coleman was a great DraftKings play. Matt Ryan is fine. He did much better. He was a great DraftKings play last week too. Looked very good in the red zone. Unfortunately, not to Julio. He threw to Austin Hooper and Calvin Ridley. But Calvin Ridley, it was fun to see him get his first NFL touchdown. The Chargers, Josh's take on the Chargers is Melvin Gordon will finish number 1. We're going to do our hot takes later, but Josh Miller's is Melvin Gordon is going to be the number 1 fantasy football running back this year, and it's not out of the realm of possibility at all. It looks like it's going to be him or Todd Gurley. Austin Eckler is a flex play from this point forward until I tell you otherwise. Minnesota needs a freaking kicker, like always, and that's all we're going to talk about kickers. There was some kicker news this week, and we're not going to talk about it.
Minnesota got Dan Bailey.
Well,
keep going.
Yeah. Cousins is the guy there. 425 yards and 4 touchdowns last week. Did great. He's hitting up Diggs and Thielen. Thielen in the slot. Cook got a little stinger, got a little hurt there, but he looks like he's going to be back. I still say Lat Murray is a great stash. I told everybody to draft him. He hasn't done anything yet, but I think Latmiri is a stash. If you drafted him like I told you to, keep him. And Diggs and Thielen, both monsters. I mean, that catch that Thielen had on the sideline, did you see that one in the tight window, triple coverage? I mean, there was literally the window was a ball. That was the window, and it just went right to him. It was amazing. The Bills, there is nothing to talk about. Green Bay, Rodgers, we talked about it. He said today this injury could cause some more damage. So that's something to think about. When a player says, if I keep playing, I'm going to hurt myself more, that's something we need to think about. Right now, he's fine to play. Jimmy Graham got back on track, 6 catches for 95 yards. So, Rodgers does throw to his tight end. They need a spark. Like I said, Jamal Williams is going to be their running back right now, not Aaron Jones. Their secondary, John might disagree, but I think it's as bad as it ever was. They gave up an awful lot of yards last week. John, you said their secondary was better this year. What happened last week? 400 yards, 4 touchdowns?
For the Packers?
Yeah.
I'm not really sure where they gave up most of their yards as far as their... I can pull that up here.
But the biggest thing with the Packers last week, there was a roughing the passer on Clay Matthews, and I mean it completely derailed the team. And then Stephon Diggs goes off, Adam Thielen goes off. I mean it was a complete derailment.
They said
that was also an overtime game too. So.
Yeah, it was.
And they tied.
It was. Cleveland's defense is good. You can't trust anybody in the running game. Look, Jarvis Landry, if he doesn't play, Antonio Callaway is a play this week. I told everybody on Twitter at the last minute to play him for 3,000 last week, and he had 3 for 81 and a touchdown. Antonio Callaway is a deep league pickup.
Nailed it.
Yeah. Exactly. New Orleans, is their defense going to get better? It did look like it got a little better last week. We thought that game was going to shoot. It didn't. Kamara had a quiet 99 yards. I was also saying, what's his floor? Is it 17 or 18 points? And he got 17 or 18 points. Michael Thomas, 28 catches in his first 2 games. It's amazing. He's already broke the record for receptions for the first 2 years, and now he's at a 93% catch rate. New England, Inunwa is the guy, trusted rookie target right there. Any given week, the running backs could flip between Bilal Powell and Crowell, so that's going to be a hard one to call. It's going to be game script. More passing is going to be Bilal. If they do get up in a game like they did week 1, it's going to be Crowell. Miami, there's not much to talk about other than that they're better than everybody thought they were going to be. They're 2-0. Their defense looks good. I think they're a good defense to stream this week. I like the idea of streaming Miami this week, and I like the idea of streaming Cleveland this week if you need defensive help. Just unfortunately, there's not much to talk about fantasy-wise. I like Kenny Stills. You guys know that, but their rookie Mike Gesicki isn't getting going for their tight end. Their running backs are splitting time. Kenny and Drake owners are just absolutely pissed off because Frank Gore, as we all know as Colts fans, is Frank Gore.
He's the little engine that could, or I guess the big engine that could, because he's not a small guy.
He's the old engine that could.
There's some teams that have really bad defenses that you're going to want to be real happy to play your guys against, and Kansas City is one of them. Mahomes is just breaking everything right now. He looks amazing, so their offense is amazing, and their defense sucks. That's really good for fantasy. So is Pittsburgh, and so is Detroit. These are high-powered offenses with horrible defenses. That's what you want for fantasy. So Juju right now is playing very well over AB, but AB has got like number 2 in the league in targets. So Antonio Brown will be fine. Connor is not game script dependent, so I think Connor is a fantastic start from this point until we say otherwise. The tight end position's hard to pick. I mean, we thought Vance McDonald came back last week, and that he's who they traded for with 49ers, and he's much better, much more athletic than Jesse James, but I think he got hurt, and Jesse James had like 8 catches.
5 for 5 for 138 and 1.
Jesus.
Yeah, 5 for 138 and 1, but that's why I'm not telling anybody to pick him up, because they want Vance McDonald to be the guy, and I don't think he hurt himself that bad. So I'm just hesitating telling anybody to go pick up Jesse James, because next week he could get 1 catch and it could be Vance McDonald. So I think that's a trap. That's a trap. I put Admiral Akbar on the Twitter. I think Jesse James is a trap. We call him that outlaw Jesse James.
Do you think you think he's a trap?
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know if you think he's a trap. I mean,
Because I said it 5 times. Philly, Ertz will be fine, especially with Wentz throwing him the ball. They need wide receivers badly. They signed Jordan Matthews today. Got to watch this Ajayi injury. My pickup of the week is Corey Clement, especially if Ajayi sits. Their secondary can be attacked. T.Y. Hilton's a great play this week too. Tampa Bay, Fitz is also breaking the league right now. Ryan Fitzpatrick, I think he's a play, and we'll talk about him more in a minute. I know we're wrapping up, but we've got one more thing to say about him, and because I think we're going to get into our hot takes, and we're going to kind of finish up with that. Is that what we're doing?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So everybody,
It is time for some hot takes from your boys. Yeah, I made that about 5 minutes before you guys got here, just to let you know.
the hot takes drop. I like it. I like it. So we're all going to give our hot takes on what's happening in fantasy football. Jackson, do you want to start?
yeah, so my hot take, Josh Gordon will finish the year as a top 5 wide receiver in yards and touchdowns. I believe the hype. In 2013, Josh blew up the league with 159 targets, 87 receptions, 1,600 yards, and I blanked on the touchdowns. Well, that's pretty bad. But
It was double digits, right?
he had double-digit touchdowns.
Weren't you still carrying a lunchbox, Jackson, when he did that? What year was that?
That would have been 2013, so I was
2013.
graduating high school.
Oh, okay.
I was buying my sub sandwich from the deli line at Greenwood.
Okay.
But he was only 22 at the time, catching balls from Brian Hoyer, Jason Campbell, and Brandon Whedon. Now he goes to arguably, I'm not a Patriots fan, the greatest quarterback of all time in this modern era. I mean, just call it like you see it.
Yep.
Josh Gordon is the 2.0 version of Randy Moss.
He could do it. He could
I
definitely
mean-
do it. I was giving you shit, but he could definitely do it.
And Moss's first year with New England, he was 30 when he went to New England. Yes, he went over there in the offseason, but he was 30 years old. He had 160 targets, 98 receptions, 1,400 yards, and 23 touchdowns. In 51 career games with the Patriots, he had 259 receptions, 3,900 yards, and 50 touchdowns.
Jesus.
Do you want to know who leads the team with New England right now with receptions? Can you take a guess?
James White.
Nope.
It's not James White?
Not James White.
Oh, man, I would have put money on that.
Nope.
Okay, well, then just go ahead and fucking tell me.
Philip Dorsett.
Philip Dorsett.
Oh, wow.
So you're telling me, you're giving me Josh Gordon at 25 years old, 26, 27, I don't give a shit how old he is, with Tom Brady. Sign me up.
All right.
Hot
Let's go.
take alert.
All right, let's go. What about you, John?
My hot take is that the Browns defense is definitely valuable in fantasy right now. They have, I think they're leading the league in turnovers, and they have 3 touchdowns in 2 weeks.
Jesus.
So, I mean, they scored 9 points in fantasy last week. If you're looking for a defensive pickup, I mean, the Browns defense is doing everything that you want out of a fantasy defense.
Yeah, and who do they
They're
play this
obviously
week?
Not winning games, but
The Jets at home and the rookie
there we go.
quarterback. So
Let's go.
I love that play. I do. I said that they were a stream, but if you like to stream defenses and you pick one up and they're a play for a while, sometimes they could just turn into a play for you for the rest of the year. I love that take, man.
Just ride him out like your ex-girlfriend.
the other thing about that is those 2 offenses that they were playing the last 2 weeks are the Steelers and the New Orleans Saints. They're both
so
considered
great offenses.
high-flying offenses. So
Yeah.
Wow.
they're causing turnovers, they're scoring points, so they're definitely irrelevant.
Honestly, haven't heard that.
They looked really good in the preseason, and I was saying, I was watching one of the games with one of my buddies. I said, man, if they keep this up, they're going to be a good defense.
And their pass rush is unreal. Unreal.
They're still going to probably lose with positive, turnover differentials like they always do.
They're
but we're
plus
talking
6.
we're talking about fantasy. So that's an excellent take. I'm going to go and let you close it out. So my take, and I said this after week 1 on Twitter, archived, Ryan Fitzpatrick is taking over that job in Tampa Bay.
Give me Fitzmagic.
He's taking over that job, and it's not as hot of a take that he's done it twice. But I said this after week 1. So many people gave me shit and was like, "Oh, you're crazy, Jameis Winston, blah blah blah." And you know what? I think that they have squandered their opportunity to have an amazing team with Winston. I think that his time is done. And Fitz has been a great journeyman, but he's proven that he can be a good quarterback. When he was with the Jets and they had Brandon Marshall and
Eric Decker with no running game, he straight balled
He straight balled out, and he's not afraid, and he's definitely got the swag right now, and they love him. I think it's time, and I think Cutter said before the season started that it's not necessarily his job when he comes back, and people were like, well, they just want to keep him hungry. No, I think they're going to keep his ass on the bench, especially if the guy keeps doing it. Now, they do have, they've got a good matchup this week, but then they've got a tough schedule. So I think that for the time being, I do not expect Jameis Winston to be out there week 4, week 5, week 6. I'm telling you guys, if Fitz keeps balling out, this is his team, and he has elevated this whole team, and they've got no running game. So if you like fantasy football and you want to play Chris Godwin or Deshaun Jackson, OJ Howard, or if you drafted Mike Evans, you're going to be fine because they've got no running game. And so that's my hot take. Fitzmagic is the starter for the Bucs this year.
Fitzmagic has put Jameis Winston behind a Publix selling crab legs, and now he's out of a job. End of story.
Yeah, and I reposted it. I said, hey, guys, I'm not going to at anybody, but all you guys that were hating last week, why don't you step up and let's, start this conversation again. Crickets.
He pulled so many fans with that post-conference.
I loved it.
Dude, the chest, someone needs to come here next. You can do it because you have a damn good beard. Wear a freaking track jacket. Just little,
John could do a Fitzmagic, but
that's your Halloween costume.
To me, he didn't gain fans as much on that as he did by throwing for 4 touchdowns 2 weeks in a row. Jesus Christ. So, Juice, what's your hot take?
My hot take is also going to follow in John's footsteps, but it's a different defense, and I'm going to be called a homer for this, but I think the Colts defense is going to come away with, I want to say 3, but I'm just going to go 2. They're going to go 2 turnovers, and they're going to beat the Philadelphia Eagles. Just saying it right now, and I think that it's going to be a defense that you're going against Carson Wentz, who's coming back off the injury. Yeah. And I think that that
game's going to be a chess match.
They got after the quarterback last week, and it's the Colts defense is somebody that I wanted to draft when I was watching preseason, but then I saw them kind of the last game for the preseason, saw him get ripped. So I was like, I'm not going to really pick him up, but there's somebody that I'm thinking about picking up against the rest of the year. And
are you going to start him in any of your leagues?
It's a possibility. It just depends on who's playing who, the matchups and everything.
That's a bold strategy,
because the Colts the Colts are not owned very much. So
that's what I'm saying. You can pick him up and play him if you want to put your money where your mouth is.
I think I'm going to do it. So I'm
gotta go for it.
I'm going to the hot take. They're going to have 2 turnovers. They're going to beat the Philadelphia Eagles.
The Colts defense is actually graded out really well. Their Colts run defense is graded out really well so far this year for Pro Football Focus, and they're going to have to lean on Carson Wentz if they want to keep this game interesting. They're not going to be able to lean on the running game. They're going to have Carson Wentz drop back, and he's going to have to throw the ball. So
and you heard it here first. I'm going to call it right now. If the Eagles win this game, it is not because of Zach Ertz. It is not because of Corey Clement. It is not because of Nelson Aguilar. It is because of Dallas Goedert. He will freaking, if they use him right, the 2 tight end system like they like to do in Philadelphia with Doug Peterson, Dallas Goedert will destroy Malik Hooker and Clayton Geathers.
All right.
Just saying.
We'll
hot
see.
take number 2.
We'll see.
Hot take. No, you got 2. That's no fair.
It is time for some hot takes from your boys.
All right, but once again, ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate you guys coming in and doing the podcast with us. And I just want Paulie to tell everybody where to find you, because I don't know if we've heard pauliesleepers.com enough.
Guys, pauliesleepers.com. You got to go. We're giving DraftKings advice. If you want to play DraftKings, you only have to put $10 in there. There's 2 free games this week. So just click on the filter for free. If you could put money in there, and you don't even have to bet money. You could put money in there and just play for free. I mean, we won $5 for Juice on week 1 in a free contest against like 600,000 people. But also, check it back later in the week. The lineups and players that are posted is very fluid. Also, if you enjoy fantasy football to whatever level, moderate to, geeked the fuck up like I am, go to Twitter and follow at Paulies Sleepers. The account's blowing up, 850 followers as of today. We've only been active for about 6 weeks. And there's a lot of people in the community that I talk with a lot, and we bounce shit off of each other. We do polls. We do, should I trade this guy? Should I pick up this guy? All kinds of fun stuff with fantasy fantasy football. If you enjoy it, Twitter, it's 24/7, and it's
Paulie's not selling a car. He is tweeting about football.
yeah. I'm on there a lot. So anyway, we're wrapping up, and thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week. Good luck, guys. Get
Fight
some wins.
on.
For Jackson Mears, John Marchbanks, and Paulies Sleepers and Juice in the Morning, have a good week, ladies and gentlemen, and win your fucking football leagues.
Juice in the morning. Juice in the morning. Juice in the morning.